welcome everybody. As required by law, we're holding this meeting in person. It will be webcast and webcast live, published on the website in a long way. And this is all around sort of the fact that we can all be seen and what's being heard. Okay, we have two membership changes. Jenny Kingsbury is substituting for Richard Roberts in this meeting, and Paul Seeley is substituting for John Graham, and everybody else is here. Do any members want to declare any or declarable interests? John's office. Clearly, there are some officers that will put their own interest. I saw Richard's hand first. Yes, you need to make sure that you press the button on the microphone so they can hear your questions.
Thanks, Chair. Thanks, panel. I would like to declare financial interest in item 2 specifically. I've taken advice from Quentin, and he's confirmed that due to a possible need for technical advice on the matter, which would normally come from myself, he's saying that I'm not required to lead the meeting, but if the committee would prefer me to lead, and of course I can do that as well if there's particular points of that within that paper. Okay, thank you very much.
So I have a financial interest in item 3. I will leave the meeting.
Okay. Thanks very much. That moves us on to the minutes of the meeting on the 30th of July. Everyone happy to confirm their accurate record of our meeting then? Pretty happy. Okay, so then we come on to item 2, the salary review act 2025, directors and heads of service. This is being presented by Emma Yossi. Hello.
Thank you. Okay, so yeah, good afternoon everyone. So I am here to present the report on the salary review for executive directors and heads of service. So this is an annual report that we present to the Employment Committee to look at the cost of living award for these roles with effective date from the 1st of April. And so just to remind you that each year when we do this, we give consideration to the pay award for the local government workers under the National Joint Council, which was agreed recently, and that was 3.2% in line with the 1st of April. So following that, we're confident to today. So just to remind you in terms of Employment Committee delegations, so Employment Committee determines the pay award to the Chief Executive and the Executive Directors, and then recommends to the Executive Director and Board of Directors and Heads of Service. Okay, in terms then of background and looking back, so to remind you, last year, Employment Committee agreed a fixed percentage of 2.5%. Was applied to this staff group from the 1st of April 2024, and again that was in line with the wider workforce application. In terms of context, so the cost of living does remain high, so we're obviously aware of at the moment, but in real terms, kind of pay growth remains fairly flat. Public sector payments at the moment for this year across kind of NHS and civil service, etc., have all been around kind of 3.5 to 5% this year. And then obviously we looked at things like the national living wage settlement, but also what that NJC pay settlement is, which as I said is 3.2%. What we also do when we consider this data is look at our markets. So what we've done is looked at benchmarking against 5 of our kind of close regional neighbours, which are seen in section 7. And then what we've also done is looked at some median benchmarking data, which is the same data we use for the rest of the staff population, which is Ferry and its public sector, not for profit, South East England, and excludes London. What you're seeing in that table in section 7 is that the council ranges are within or have close proximity to those neighbouring obviously it's available to exactly what's on. But what's also seeing the media data is those papers are encompassed within all our ranges. So when we're looking at that variable data, which has a large sample within it, really nice. I just think it is worth noting, obviously, that all of these are up for review. So the Employment Committee covered the notes of a couple of weeks ago is encompassing the salaries for these roles. So we don't need to read this now. These will be part of that. In terms of costs, so the population is about currently 149. Obviously, that fluctuates a bit, with a pay bill of around 13.5 million. In terms then of costs of the proposal, so it was only budgeted at 2.8 in terms of the integrated plan, which would have been a cost of about 378k. Obviously, we've got the national settlement agreement of 3.2, so that's going to be about 432. So either about 70k difference in costs. What's ridiculously just what we're suggesting. So just then to remind you of the recommendations of the report. So we are recommending that all pay points within the levels for the roles that I named are increased by that 3.2%, which follows that national census. Okay, so I think that was all of them. How about if anyone's got any questions?
Thanks so much, Emily. So are there any questions or comments? No. So, no, sorry.
Apology, I thought Nigel was telling me my.
That's
right.
I did for a while as well, for God's sake.
No, thank you very much, thank you, Chair, and thank you, Emily, for through that. And just say, really pleased this is being broadcast. You followed the challenges we had at the last meeting, and these are important issues. That's a question, Emily. So you referenced the difference between what we budgeted for initially, 2.8, and the current 3.2. However, you also mentioned that the NHS and the public sector are there downwards and around 3.5 to 5. And I just wondered how you modelled that as well. As I said, these roles are incredibly important. We have some different services. So are we at risk if we approve recommendation 3.2 when other local authorities say they're paying 3.5 in the last Thank you.
So to answer, no, I haven't. What obviously we have committed previously is to follow that 3.2% in terms of national, so we haven't, but obviously if that's something you wanted us to do.
Yeah, thank you. No, thank you very much.
Just to add, we do know that certainly most of other folks, including naming, adopt the JNC as a determinant for this pay group. The JNC national pay bargaining outcome was 3.2%. So I think we would know the majority would adopt that JNC approach.
Thank you. Well, that was the question I was going to ask you, something else. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you very much. That's really helpful. Thank you. I was just reflecting on the table with the comparisons of benchmarking. And I note that particularly interested in the first column because that is the neighbouring councils, whereas in the East England we know that cost of living is cheaper in some areas and cost of housing is particularly an issue in Hertfordshire and surrounding. So I suppose for me, the first and the third columns at some point one were most interested. I know that in somewhere at the upper end, somewhere at the lower end, and I just wondered with the 2% that won't reflect. When we review the salaries, will you be looking to also review those? Because it seems like there's some quite significant discrepancies.
So
That sounds like a question relating to what we dealt with at the last meeting, this meeting. Is that where you attended?
Thank you. I suppose there's it's confirmation, seeking confirmation, Chair, that will be included as part of the review.
Okay.
As part of the review. Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
No, okay.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. And yes, obviously we support the JNC proposals and 3.2%. As much for our CDOF as well as for everybody else. So we need to recognise the negative situation that really our office is in, close to London. And so, yes, we said it's recognising that everybody else and all other staff went through a very stressful time last year of the organisational resource. We also looking to take into account when it comes to the pay reports. But just can I briefly ask obviously it does say at the end that there are no quality implications, which is confirmed that. Is that going to come up? Obviously, that will be looked at more when it comes to the actual review issue.
Thanks, Stan. I don't know.
I think that's okay. Yes, that other group will be.
Okay, are there any more questions?
Got two questions. In the benchmarking, have you considered our London neighbours, Barnet and Enfield? And also, do any of these rules reflect areas where we have problems recruiting, or is that covered elsewhere?
So in terms of London's and those local boroughs, so we don't use those regularly for benchmarking. So as I said, that's that public sector non-for-profit. And when we look at our neighbouring councils, so yeah, we usually look at the larger councils in the south east, don't usually look at those London borders, because we know that, you know, there are enhanced standards within there, and we're not always able to necessarily review those. In terms of the question about, sorry, your second question again.
Questions about either of these levels centred on occupation within the council where we have problems recruiting.
So potentially, yes, there are some roles at these levels that do, and within these ranges, there are the ability for us to enhance the range slightly to reflect the market, and we do that for a limited number of roles within this sort of cohort.
Okay, thanks very much. We've had an interesting discussion, I think, more focused on the pay policy approach, which we agreed last time we reviewed, whether or not we are benchmarking against the right comparators. And I think that's a really good question. I hope it's going to be covered in the procedure we agreed last time. The proposal for us today relates specifically to the cost of living increase. And the proposal is that should be the same for starting these grades as for the grades that have by the JNC. So we're asked to agree the recommendations set out in 2.1 Part 1, which relates to the executive directors, where we're asked to make a decision. And in Part 2, to recommend to the chief executive in relation to the decision for directors and heads of service. Is everyone content with the mission agreement? Agreed? Thank you very much. All right, that moves us on into item 3. If you want to learn these points. Item 3 then is the salary review for 2025 for the chief executive. Emily will present this one. Basically, it's Emily on my pages.
Apologies, yeah, it was probably better than asking later voice to me, but I'll try the best. So I won't go through the general context is the same, so it's the backdrop around the financial position nationally. I think the recommendation on this one is a bit more specific though, in the sense of there's a recommendation for panel to consider that all of the pay points within the chief executive range, so that's the job family level 21, is increased by the relevant amount of the pay award. So it's just a very specific point within that, what's the range. So in context, I won't go through the points we have around the local government public sector pay position. Clearly, we've covered the NJC determination at the national pay level, which is section 6.5. So that's again the backdrop in terms of the recommendation to panel of increase by 3% increase. So from a benchmarking perspective, as we referred to previously, the median, when we looked at our national, also our neighbouring authorities, is 222,000, and the chief executive salary broadly in line with that, albeit slightly over the first instance. We've referred to that in sections, in section 7 as a bit of previous report, just to draw that to your attention. To cost of living options, again, we've run through we are recommending the same being applied as previously being applied, which is the NJC national determination of 3.2%. From a financial implications perspective, as set out in section 9, it's budgeted at 2.8%. The pay award as it would be process would see a pressure of around £1,000 on top of what's being budgeted for this particular role. No specific legal implications and no specific policy implications. The only other thing I'll probably just draw to attention is that there was a pay award in 2024-25, which is of course the current chief executive was during that financial year. So, unless a specific question I haven't answered, but I thought I probably wouldn't go through everything that was previously.
Thank you, Richard. Questions? Okay, thank you. I'm probably asking this in the wrong section, I should have asked it before, but there is a budget impact on this, and it was more of a budget impact on the section before. How's that going to be taken into account for the ones?
Question. It's a standard in the sense of the relevant directors would expect to absorb that budget pressure within their existing budgets and essentially address them a bit like we have as I'd say it's akin to a basic control factor, a basic control factor which would be met within existing directory budgets.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you very much. And not a question, just a comment really, still on the back of the previous item, we've always followed the NJC awards, so we don't see anything which is different this year, and it's just to acknowledge that obviously, Andy joined 2 years, didn't have any over last year, challenging role as we all know, so the question of this.
Does the chief executive performance rate have 100% or how's that going?
So there's no performance related pay element to the chief exec salary, but they are.
I was asking that
Oh,
for the job that she's done overall, not on the job that they get put.
Gotcha. Yeah, sorry, apologies. Yeah, so she's performance framework as every other member of staff is, and has seemed to be performing as expected.
It's a very specific. Don't we get a layout of everybody, all the major staff? Sorry. Don't we get a layout of all the percentages of all the major top staff? So shouldn't
Not sure I understand your question.
performance distribution matter? Don't you get a sheet showing the top executives how much over 100% they're performing over the last year? Wouldn't that be a good thing?
We have previously, and I know it's I think there is a scrutiny where we are looking at performance, and that's across the whole council, which should also include the standard distribution curves, which I think is what you're asking around performance of all officers, but will also include those that see senior officers, so we show those parts again. Should I come back on that? Sorry.
Will that be done within departments as well, apart from officers, but it's departments as well?
Absolutely, we can provide that, yeah, and certainly it's something we would normally show at organisational level, a directory level, and we can say provide a senior manager distribution as well.
What's the time scale? 1 year, 6 months, what's the time scale?
Well, the end of year performance cycle actually ends, it's ended in March, so we can provide that's available data now. So as I say, scrutiny, I'm aware of requested a paper to come forward on organisation performance, which I think is due. Obviously, I will check the absolute date, but I think it's due in October. That's why we expect to outline that for all of the wider organisational KPIs as well.
I believe the constituents want to get their money back. So.
I'm sure everyone's that's. Okay, I think that's as the government members pointed out, the responsibility on that chat. It was just everybody that there was not an increase in the chicken paid lots of addition in the invoicing. And I think to relate to the point that Paul made in terms of the previous sites and whether or not there is any difficulty in recruiting. We've been through a chief executive recruitment process, and I think that is the fair indication as to the sort of level and pay that we need to offer in terms of recruiting people of the right caliber. Although I've not been part of the formal performance appraisal process, because it would have been done by the previous administration, I don't have any concerns from that point of view. So I'm very happy to propose the recommendation that the core paper and some relevant scale increased by 3.2%, same as being increased for all the other staff. Are we all in agreement? Thanks very much. That gets us to the end of the meeting. The next meeting is on the 17th of October. Thanks very much for your participation.